All right, I think we are going to get started while folks trickle in. Good morning, everyone. I would love to see the introductions continue in the chat. Really gave us a great model of the questions we're asking. Who are your people? Where are you joining from? And what has brought you here today? We'd love to just get a sense of who's in the room and make some connections. My name is Allison Kaufman, and I am the Executive Director of the Amplify Georgia Collaborative. And I'm going to be one of the co-MCs for today's summit. And I will let Rula introduce themselves as well.
Okay, hi, my name is Rula Abisamra. Some of y'all checked in with me last night during our breakout sessions. I'm State Campaigns Director with Amplify Georgia. I have an organizing heart, and I'm so excited about this organizing summit. So I will leave it there, but you'll hear from me a little more today before we go to our sessions.
All right, so I'll kick us off with a little bit of context and intention setting. But first, I just want to say we are so very excited to see every single one of you this morning. It is no small thing to join a summit, virtually no less, on a Saturday morning. So we do not take that commitment lightly, and we really hope that y'all will leave with a lot of incredible resources and new skills and connections to make this time worth your while. This summit has been a long time in the making, and it's just really special to see it all come together. At the start of this year, we celebrated the 49th anniversary of Roe versus Wade. And there was a lot of excitement for us to come together and to recognize that we have had the constitutional right to abortion care for nearly a half century in this country. But it was also a time of immense anxiety and fear, knowing that there was this important decision coming up, Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization, in the summer, where Roe could very likely be overturned before it even achieved its 50th anniversary. So we started thinking about what would be needed, right? We knew that if Roe was overturned, we were going to need a space, right, to bring folks together, to tap them into the movement, so that we could continue to fight for abortion access even without Roe. And we knew that if Roe was upheld, that we were going to have to double down on the work we were already doing, because for so many people, Roe was never a reality, especially here in the South. So welcome to the Amplify Georgia Collaborative. We were literally made for these times. We have always known that abortion access was gained and lost at the state and local level. And we have been building campaigns bit by bit since 2018. When our founding organizations came together in 2017, they recognized that we needed to invest in collaboration for positive policy change at every level of government in Georgia. And our first major vision for change was that cities could actually be funding abortion care. And we knew that we should be starting with Atlanta. We declared that Atlanta could fund abortions. It seemed like a wild dream at the time, but when we started looking at the power that the mayor had, the city council had, we actually saw that it was within our grasp, and it was just a matter of holding them accountable. So in 2019, when they passed a resolution condemning the passage of HB 41, which is the early abortion ban that recently went into effect, we saw the opening, right? We saw the chance to step up and declare that they needed to put their money, our money, where their words were, and actually start funding abortion care. And so bit by bit, we built relationships. We passed incremental policy wins, such as the creation of the Reproductive Justice Commission. And then just this past month, we finally succeeded in getting $300,000 allocated to fund abortion care here in Atlanta. And the reason that we share this example is because often these visions of making things better than the status quo in red states like Georgia are written off. They're discounted. We're often told by people both outside of Georgia, but quite frankly, in Georgia as well, that we should be content with preventing backsliding, that we should really be focused on protecting ourselves and hunkering down. But what we see by this example from Atlanta is that with the right strategy and with the right partnerships, we can win. We are done allowing the opposition stop. We're done allowing the opposition from setting our agenda. Now is our moment to force the tides to turn. It will take time. It will take more hard work. It's going to take vision and boldness to put forth radical, proactive policies now. But this will get us closer to a Georgia where everyone has full bodily autonomy. So that's why we are holding this summit. It's so that we can come together, RJ organizers and our many allies, to have the strategy and the tools needed to meet this moment and to create the vision of reproductive justice that we want here in Georgia. So what are we going to be bringing to the summit today? Our partners are offering deep knowledge of abortion and insight into intersecting reproductive justice issues. We are providing open access resources on topics ranging from criminalization to how to talk about abortion to how to pass local policies. We're bringing tangible ways to take action now and new connections. If you're not yet linked up to an organization, you'll have a chance to identify an organizing home. And if you are part of an organization already, but they aren't yet doing abortion access work, you will learn ways to bring them into this work and to work with us in advancing these goals around abortion access. So we have a packed schedule today. It starts off with this plenary, during which you're going to hear from the brilliant Oriaku Njoku, sharing some words of wisdom and vision for our times. Following this, there will be from 11 to 12:15, there'll be an Abortion 101 session. Then we will have a short break for lunch where there's an optional opportunity to join us in Zoom for some more casual conversations and small groups. Then from 1 to 2, we will have our RJ and sessions. So talking about RJ and faith and voting and economic justice. And then we will have 2 blocks of skill building sessions where you can learn to shape your narrative. You can learn how to advance policy change. You can learn how to protect yourself and loved ones from criminalization. And then at 4:15, we'll be closing out with some reflections and remarks from Kwajalein Jackson, and a few calls to actions and ways that people can start working towards expanded abortion access today. So that is an overview of why we're here and what we're doing. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Olivia, our conference planner, who will share a little bit more about how we're going to do this.
Hey y'all, welcome. I'm Olivia Samples. I've been the event planner for this event. I'm super grateful that all of y'all are here, that you showed up to this space this morning to share some of your Saturday with us. And I'm just going to go through some quick housekeeping things. And also, I'm your girl. If you need if you have any questions or have any problems during the summit, feel free to email me at buildingbeyondroe@amplify-da.org, which you can find in all of our materials. So first, I wanted to mention some tools that you should know about. So we have the chat, which I'm glad to see everyone is utilizing already. So you can go ahead and pop who you are, where you're from, where your people are from in the chat, and we'd love to hear it. We also have the Ask a Question feature, so you can go ahead and ask a question. You can upvote questions that you really want our speakers to answer. You can comment on questions, and that's a really good way for you to make sure they get answered. And then we also have polls. So polls will be coming out from your speakers and their session. So just make sure to take the time to fill those out. We also have our community safety guidelines, which I will post in our chat right now. Our community safety guidelines are essentially a set of agreements we're all agreeing to in this space to keep everyone safe. Of course, no space is 100% safe, but we have moderators on deck to support and make sure that everyone is being treated with respect. We also acknowledge that the topics of our summit can be heavy or triggering for people who are attending. So we want to hold space for those feelings to come up, to be let out, to be supported. So we have Leo Sage Allen on deck for supporting some folks, and I'm going to bring them on stage now to tell you a little bit more about the type of support that they can offer. They are going to be available via text or call, and I'm going to drop their number in the chat right now, but if you find them in the chat, their number is also in there. Is also in their bio. All right, I'll keep going with my spiel and we'll see if LS can join us. So this is being recorded. So the event, a whole event is being recorded. You can, oh, what's up, LS? Go ahead.
Hey, good morning. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm here. My number is in the chat now. I'm happy to be a space for folks who want to chat and maybe decompress, or if there's something triggering, I'm your support person and glad to be here.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm going to drop your info in the chat one more time. Sweet. Thanks, LS. So this event, like I said, is being recorded. There will be replays available after the event, so just keep that in mind as you're sharing stories throughout our day. Our schedule is located at the top left of our screen. You can also access it at this link I'm about to drop in the chat. Lots of links this morning. And yeah, so you can find out what events, what sessions are coming up or anything else about our schedule there. And then lastly, I just wanted to share some gratitude for amazing people that helped make this happen before we get started this morning. So of course, all of the Amplify member orgs, ARC, Feminist Women's Health Center, NAPAWF, the New Georgia Project, Sister Song, Spark, Urge, all of these amazing RJ orgs that we really appreciate their support and their leadership in this work. I also wanted to thank Faith in Public Life and Heart for their support in turning out folks to this event. That was really amazing, and we appreciate y'all being here. Thanks to all the folks who filled out our supporter survey. So we had a lot of folks give us input on what they wanted this event to look and feel like before we even started planning. And so I really appreciate y'all's time as well. The folks who did one-on-ones with me and gave me some more in-depth information on what the landscape in Georgia looks like, what they wanted to see at this event. So Navi, Grace, Coco, Elena, Carly, Agbo, Naomi, thank you so much for your time and sharing your stories with me. And then lastly, our steering committee, which we are going to bring up some folks from the steering committee to get their flowers and props in just a minute. So yeah, so that's my spiel. Thanks so much for being here, y'all. And I'm going to pass it off to Rula.
Thanks, Olivia. If anybody has questions about how to work the platform, please don't hesitate to reach out in the chat so that we can make sure that you can get full participation out of this event that we're here today for a whole day. I am really excited to share. I'm going to share my screen one more time if I can make it run. What I want to share is about our vision. The collective vision that came from this partnership and what it means for how we do our work, just to give you a taste of how we ended up here. Let's see. Yes. There we go. Okay. So if you can see this, I really hope you can. No, it's not presenting yet. Okay. Alrighty, so this is the Amplify Georgia Collaborative's theory of change. And I will highlight some of the elements I really want to share with you. At the center is our vision. We need a vision, not only an enemy, right? We need a vision that we are driving toward that says what we need and what our people need and what is going to make us free, happy, healthy. Otherwise, we're chasing the enemy around. And we haven't really figured out, well, why is that an enemy? That doesn't work for me, especially in the long term. What I need is something that keeps me going, where I build my strategy from what I want. And I think that's something that all of us need, that like we are powered by our commitments to each other and by our commitment to this vision that is going to make us more whole. And so the vision here is that Georgia can actually catalyze change throughout the South by expanding access to reproductive care, including abortion care. And our goal is that we will see all Georgians able to access safe, affordable, and dignified abortion care when they need it. That is not to say that's the only thing that completes this vision that you see in the center. What it means is that is the goal with which Amplify partners came together to create this whole concept of having a collaborative space where we protect our time, energy, and magic for moving forward the work, not just fighting the crap. And our theory of change centers in how do we think we're going to get to the wins? We think we win when the most impacted communities are in leadership and are leading. There are abortion positive policies at every level of government. When we thrive in our interdependence, when we embrace reproductive justice, and when our cultures normalize abortion. You can tell that's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in a year or in one election cycle. The work continues, and we're here because we're talking about building a movement for the long term. So you are here because you have said, I've been in this work. Either I have taken an action, I've started taking actions, I've been an activist for a minute, but I want to deepen my leadership. Or you're an organizer perhaps in another part of the movement, and you said it's time to bring my people deeper into abortion access organizing. And so we are coming together for that reason. And our core strategies in the Amplify container is that state and local campaigns are our vehicle for educating, organizing, shifting culture, and creating policy change. We need some kind of container to show us like who's here, who's at the table, who's powering the work, where are we going together? Do we have defined plans and goals? Otherwise, we're a bunch of people who are doing our thing and sometimes come to meetings, right? And where Amplify itself, not the whole collaborative, but the staff team of just a few of us, are adding what we can to the work, is that we convene organizations around shared agendas and collaborative campaigns. We connect state and local advocacy to each other. We create opportunities for leadership development, such as this, and we build capacity to do abortion access work among our partners, our movement allies, and their supporters. There we go. And if you can see this is our values. Our values and beliefs that we come back to when we are challenged, when we face a dilemma, when we are wondering if, is even internal policies, is this the right internal policy for us to adopt? Our anti-racism, collaboration, pro-abortion. So we always say we're pro-abortion and anti-racist. You've got to be both. We value collaboration, leadership, and sustainability of people and of movements in our communities. And finally, radical love. And in that little tiny heart, but the one that's biggest, it says we are powered by the leadership of Amplify partners. So you'll hear who our partners are in just a minute. But I want to pause and talk more about the theory of change, because as we talk about what we want, we also talk about how we're going to get there. There are ways to get there on a spectrum, and people often engage in one or a few of these, and organizations often find their niche or the strategy that they're pursuing in one of these. So you can see all the way on the left, we have the side of the spectrum that says accepts and uses existing power relationships. So that means I may not be challenging the system, but I'm finding ways to meet people's needs during the long time it may take for the system to change or be changed. That looks often like direct service work, a soup kitchen, a homeless shelter, an organized trash cleanup that we may do. It can also look like self-help, which is where a person themselves is taking the initiative in their life to purchase healthy foods, ride a bike. They're doing for themselves what they know they need under a system that does not share the power with them. We, over at the other end of this spectrum, challenging existing power relationships is possible, and there's work that does that. The one that you see all the way to the right is direct action, which direct action does not only mean hitting the streets and protesting. And in fact, sometimes a rally or a protest just isn't in the politics of challenging existing power relationships. So we need to be critical of that. Direct action means people speaking on behalf of themselves with the people in power. So confronting power, right, in some way to show that I have power too, and you are not better than me. And that's hard to do when we are not in positions of individual power, but it's easier to do as we come together and create people power out of our numbers, but also the strength of our relationships and our commitments to each other. Here in the middle, you have education, getting the word out. Sometimes that includes changing the narratives, making sure that the message that you want people to know about is louder and more adopted. And advocacy, which a lot of us are advocates, and as well as perhaps organizers. But advocates speak with people in power on behalf of a community. We know that not everybody is able to show up in the halls of power at all times and speak on behalf of themselves. What changes from advocacy to organizing is when we're actually in deep relationships with people that we think that change is for. It's not just it's for others, it's for me as well, because I'm part of this community. And so organized action, whatever it is about communities building and using our power. And when we are trying to make change in a system that just kind of gives us crumbs, right? Organized action is for communities to build and use our power so that we can challenge the current power dynamics, not just say, thank you so much for giving us this crumbs, but we can show you that we are strong and you need to do what people need because you have the power to, and we're holding you accountable to do it. And it's really important just to know that so many of these things that Allison said, it's been written off in the South. There are some things that no one had tried to get Atlanta City Council to agree to fund abortions. And 4 years ago, maybe even we thought, well, I've never heard of that. That sounds like a dream. But it turns out it's technically possible. It's a tool within their toolbox they were not using, and no one had organized to hold them accountable to use that power for good. And so these things are possible. Quickly, I'm going to name the core campaigns that Amplify is powering with our partners that we want you to know about and that we will share more about throughout today, and that we're asking you to help us lead. Not us, not me, but to help our partner organizations lead by becoming members with them, by organizing and volunteering with them, and becoming longer-term members of our partner organization's base of supporters. This is how you become a leader in campaigns, is you join up with the community that is already part of it. So the Georgia Reproductive Freedom Act, this is the big dream for abortion access in Georgia, that it is available, accessible, affordable, safe, legal, high quality for anyone who needs it, anywhere in Georgia, at any time that they need it. So when you want an abortion, you should be able to access care. You shouldn't have to go broke getting it. You shouldn't have to fear the police or shame or judgment from your community. And the Georgia Reproductive Freedom Act would represent, is a bill that we have drafted, that we have worked on with the input of stakeholders from communities in Georgia, from the people not only our partners who directly provide care and support to people who need abortions, like ARC Southeast and the Feminist Women's Health Center, but other providers as well, other organizations that work with people who are pregnant or may become pregnant. And we identified all these different barriers. And this was almost 2 years ago. This was while Roe versus Wade was still in place. We knew that Georgia did not have equal rights to abortion access, and that right was not fully realized for so many people. That includes people of color, people of low incomes, who are in rural areas, who are caregivers and breadwinners and don't have paid leave, because we don't have paid leave here, people who have Medicaid and other insurance that does not cover abortion in Georgia, and young people. And so none of that was real equity, and it wasn't reproductive justice. And so we identified the ways in which we need to, number one, repeal existing abortion restrictions in Georgia. We have almost 24 that have been passed since 1973. And so we already didn't have our full rights under Roe. So we need to repeal those restrictions, not just the 6-week ban that just went into place, but anything that is medically unnecessary and unjustified. There's no reason to keep it. It is just prejudice. And we need to affirm that everybody has the right to decide for themselves whether they're going to continue a pregnancy and give birth, whether they're going to have an abortion, whether or not to use contraception, and that nobody's going to be criminalized for the outcomes of their pregnancy, whatever those are. So it's a big goal, right? We don't get that in one legislative session, even though right now lawmakers and candidates are talking about abortion like they never have before. What we need to do is build on this moment to keep making them aware that actually communities have a solution, and we are asking for it now. And you can count on us to keep working on this, whether you forget about it or not. We're not going to let you forget about it. Then we have the Fake Clinics Suck campaign. You're going to get a chance to hear about this in our next plenary, Abortion 101. The problem, I know, a fake clinic, what even is that? Anti-abortion centers are ideologically driven organizations, often faith-based, that sometimes, and more, it's a strategy, are building these fronts where they pose as pregnancy clinics. So when you see like a billboard, there's tons of them going on 85 South that say like, pregnant, scared, we can help. That is a fake clinic. It's an anti-abortion center. They are specifically looking for the people who need help with their pregnancies or are in a crisis of decision, many of whom are interested in finding out about abortion care. And then they specifically don't tell them where to get abortions, and they tell them scary, misleading information about abortion care, or tell them it's just too late to even try. A lot of these places are connected to adoption agencies, and they encourage you to go through the adoption process, even though the vast majority of people, even who have unintended or unwanted pregnancies, do not want to do an adoption process. I am going to move on to the DeKalb Reproductive Justice Campaign, which is pushing in this moment for DeKalb County to decriminalize abortion by passing a resolution that will tell the police essentially to stand down from enforcing or investigating in any instances of accusations essentially that someone has had an abortion or helped someone have an abortion. The DeKalb Reproductive Justice Campaign is also broader than that, having identified that the county needs, the county's priority needs are increased access and education about reproductive health, domestic violence, and basic needs like groceries and household, making ends meet in the household. And finally, in the city of Atlanta, you're going to hear much more about this in our local organizing session this afternoon. But this is our oldest and original campaign. And we started in 2018, asking Atlanta to take steps like establishing a reproductive justice commission, addressing the fact that abortion could be criminalized but shouldn't be, and funding abortions. And so you'll hear about the sequence of wins there, what we still struggle with, what our next goals are. But we just want you to get that overview, the whole landscape, and I will move on. I think I pass it over to you, Allison.
Thank you so much, Rula. So we wanted to take this moment to just recognize the incredible partners that lead Amplify's work. We talk about a lot about how we are collaborative, and what we mean by that is that our work is led and implemented by our amazing partners and allies. So Amplify is anchored by 7 core organizations. They include Access Reproductive Care Southeast, Feminist Women's Health Center, the National American Pacific Island Women's Forum, the New Georgia Project, Spark Reproductive Justice Now, and United for Reproductive and Gender Equity, also known as URGE, and Sister Song. So there are 7 core organizations. Next slide. So a little bit about Amplify structure. So we have an advisory board, which provide the high level vision and kind of compliance with our theory of change, which is led by our 7 anchoring partners. We also have a steering committee, and these are the folks that meet monthly, that lead our campaigns, and who are really in the weeds with us and providing that like ongoing leadership, and we're really instrumental in making the summit happen. So I wanted to pause to allow the steering committee members who are currently present today to just say hello to everyone and introduce yourselves so that people are able to see your beautiful faces, and just give you a round of applause for all the incredible work you've been doing. So if we can get technology to work, we're going to invite them on stage briefly to say hello. That is Naomi, Agbo, and Kenyetta. Y'all are here. Hey, Naomi.
Hello, Allison.
Welcome. Just want to say hello to folks and let them know who you are.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Naomi. I am the Community Outreach Manager at the Feminist Women's Health Center, and also the DeKalb campaign chair here with Amplify. Really excited to be with you all for this summit. I know that we're going to be getting into some great topics, and I'm looking forward to learning more with you all today.
Thank you so much, Naomi. Naomi is going to be doing our Abortion 101 session with various folks, and also our criminalization session. I'm not sure if I see Kenyetta or Agbo on stage, which is fine. Agbo will also be in our Abortion 101 sessions. You'll get to, and they were facilitating last night, so you'll get to know them more. And also Kenyetta will be doing our Faith and RJ session. Next slide. The next one just talks about like who is doing our campaign. So each of our campaigns has their own working group, which community members can also throw down on. So you'll be getting a call to action later today about signing up for our campaigns, but you can see it's our partners plus various other organizations such as NARAL, Planned Parenthood, Women Engaged, YWCA. And then finally, we just wanted to show a beautiful slide of all the different organizations that have thrown down on the summit and really have helped to make this happen. So if you'll go to the next slide. Yeah, so just thank you so much to everyone who's made the summit possible. It really is beautiful to see all these organizations coming together around a shared event. And I think someone is joining us. Just want to pause real quick to see if it's one of our steering committee members. It's Agbo. I know you've been having technical issues. Are you there? Can you hear us?
I can. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah. Hi, Agbo. Do you want to say hello to folks and introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Great to be here this morning. So as Allison said, my name is Agbo. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm with Spark. I also sit on the steering committee for Amplify. Really excited to get into just like the knowledge today. And yeah, if you're interested in Spark, please let me know, and I would be happy to tell you more about it.
And Kenyetta, hello.
Good morning, everyone. I am Reverend Kenyetta Chinwe. I am the Faith Advocacy Coordinator for Sister Song, the Women of Color Reproductive Justice Collective, and I am a proud member of the Amplify Steering Committee. Really looking forward to getting to talk to you all more later about faith and RJ and that intersection.
Thank you so much. So those are our steering committee members. Jasmine, who is with New Georgia Project, is not able to join us today. They have another event, but they're also on the steering committee, and I want them to get their flowers as well. So without further ado, we're going to transition to our plenary speaker, who is Oriaku Njoku. Oriaku is a first-generation Black, Igbo, Nigerian-American, Kentucky-raised, queer, fat, Southern femme, healing-centered coach living and loving in Atlanta, Georgia. Oriaku is deeply committed to finding joy and pleasure in everything she does, including the work they do as the executive director of the National Network of Abortion Funds. She believes radical love is a core value that can be embodied and operationalized in movement spaces, and truly believes that when we can and will create a cultural shift around how we address abortion in the South, and invites you to join her in making reproductive justice a reality. Thank you so much for joining us today, Oriaku. I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. Oh, maybe I should. Oh, I'm unmuted. Okay, good. Yeah, me and technology, y'all. As an older millennial, I'm like, I should know these things. And then things pop up and I'm like, I don't know these things. So thanks for everyone who helped me with the tech stuff today. And yeah, I just want to go ahead and get started. Ndewo, which means hello in Igbo. And I know y'all are here doing abortion access work. So also good morning, Abobes, for sure. Yeah, a lot of you may know me as the co-founder and former executive director of Access Reproductive Care Southeast. And today I have the absolute honor and pleasure to speak to y'all for the first time as the executive director of the National Network of Abortion Funds. I really do feel like I'm in the right place at the right time. And it's really exciting to see what is possible and what can happen, especially with a shift in our mindset around how we're doing this work. Allison already did introduce me, but my name is Oriaku Njoku and I use she and they pronouns. And I love when people mix it up by not automatically defaulting to she. One of the things, especially as a former independent abortion clinic worker, shout out to Atlanta Women's Center and Summit Medical Associates, and also my experience as an abortion funder, supporting Southerners with funding and logistics. I know firsthand that providing a direct service or doing direct service work is not only a lot of hard work, but it's also a lot of hard work. And in spite of that, I, like so many of y'all, really still find ways to center peace, joy, love, and pleasure in everything that we do. Now, one of the things I want to say is, as Southern folks, as people doing movement, a lot of the words and jargon that we use can kind of make us feel all stuffy and fluffy and head in the clouds, lightweights that are like, oh, let's bring everyone together. But I know this is a room of Southerners. And I also know that a lot of you all may identify with the classic spiritual Southern hymn, Nuck If You Buck. I will say that runs through my veins. And the attitude that I bring to doing this work, not only here in Georgia, but doing it now on a national scale, is that I will absolutely come for anyone who tries us in this movement today, tomorrow, the next day, and all the days after that. So I am excited that you all are here and you all are spending this time together. It really does feel like a long time coming. And as one of the initial Amplify Georgia Collaborative members, it just feels really good that we are able to provide this training for all of you all in an attempt to not just work for other people, but work with each other. In your time together, one of the things is that while we're talking about organizing work, things may sound hard, but I also hope that folks take time to celebrate wins in and outside of our region. And the reason for doing that is, just to really acknowledge that change is possible, even in places like the South or Midwest when folks don't think it's possible, when we're called hostile regions, when people have to travel from our states to other states to get an abortion. At the same time, folks in Kansas came together to vote down a constitutional amendment that would have stripped away the right to abortion in that state. There have also been several abortion funds like ARC Southeast who have demanded and received city funding for abortions. And so, I really get excited about the real wins that could not have happened without real people power. And so, in the days when we're overwhelmed by the increased visibility of our organizations or folks craving to do work to support abortion access, we definitely should realize that this is a sign that a majority of people are indeed with us. Yes, there's lots of folks who are coming in, folks like you, who may need some political education, and that will take time, but it's worth the time. It's worth the time knowing that we're creating a community that is not only informed about how our movement relates to other issues that impact us every day, but also it's really comforting knowing that we are not alone in doing this work. And one of the reasons I am also so excited is because I really do believe in the power of organizing and outreach work. I believe that those things are two distinctly different things as well. And so outreach to me is, you go in community, you table, you're letting people know about your services or what you can do. But the organizing piece is really the work that is providing that political education, really having those one-on-one or group conversations, allowing space for people to talk and to get things wrong and to, not necessarily correct, but give folks a different vision or imagine a different vision of what they may have already preconceived in their heads. So it's meeting together, doing things together, not only together, but really working to get our communities to move towards, our collective liberation with us. I'm sure many of y'all have these too, but I have so many feelings right now, especially doing abortion funding work and having worked in abortion funds for almost 8 years during my whole career. And so there's feelings of being somber. There are feelings of grieving that I know so many of us are having, especially when we saw the overturn of Roe. I'm grieving the ways systemic and institutional oppression has so deeply failed us, especially for Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities, especially during crisis on type of crisis that we've had to face year after year. But outside of grieving and, outside of feeling somber, I'm also really pissed off. I'm pissed, y'all. I'm angry and pissed that after 50 years of prioritizing the legality of individuals' rights to an abortion, Roe was overturned. But I'm even more upset that the strategies used to protect Roe was focused on the legality and not the accessibility of abortions in this country. And at the same time, I feel so much clarity and excitement about how our movement, how y'all as organizers will make ripples in the water that will start this tidal wave of transformation that all of us are craving. And I know it's possible. Over the last couple of, I will say especially over the last year, I've really been reflecting on what rights and choice mean for a while now. And, it's so easy to feel like we're doomed. It's so easy to feel like we're defeated. It's so easy to feel like our choices will never be supported. And of course, in doing abortion work, there's a sense of urgency in this work, especially in a rapidly changing legal and political climate that can completely shift abortion seekers' options for what they can do or access for their abortions overnight. I mean, we saw examples of that even here in Georgia, where, you know, they decided to have our 6-week ban go into effect. And the day that it went into effect was the day, I mean, some clinics were already in clinic, you know? And so sometimes it's not only overnight, but it's during the same day. And, you know, I will say that this year, I'm going to make a little analogy thing. So do y'all know that TikTok where Lady Gaga's like bus, club, another club, plane, next place, no sleep. Well, I feel like the hot mess of the last year has really felt like oppression, Texas, marches, SCOTUS case, funding abortion, building power, SCOTUS leak, flood of contributions, new volunteers, rallies, overturning Roe, no sleep. And that's exhausting. I also cannot, count the number of times that I've heard, especially abortion funds and organizers are incredibly important to eliminate barriers to abortion access while restoring faith, dignity, and justice in this movement moment. And I do want to reiterate that this is a movement moment. This is not something that is permanent. This is something that we absolutely can move through. And you know what? I believe that all of us can make anything possible, and all of us can create the change that we know we want and know that we need to get the wins that we want and need as well. You know, this summit and our connection as Georgians can radically transform the abortion access and our movement. And I would say, as a grounded optimist, as someone recently called me, I was like, oh, that's cute. I can get into that. So, as a grounded optimist, I want to remind us that the work that we do as abortion funds, as organizers, along with other cross movement collaborators, is indeed for a collective liberation, where reproductive justice, racial justice, gender justice, among so many other things, will be a reality. You know, reproductive justice work has been happening all over the world for decades, even when we didn't know or use the phrase reproductive justice. And so, the term reproductive justice was coined by 12 Black women meeting in a Chicago hotel room in 1994. And essentially, reproductive justice was like this response to challenge the idea of a choice binary that focused on the right to choose or not to choose to have an abortion, which has been what the mindset that's leading the reproductive health and rights movement for a while. However, folks doing reproductive justice work, those founding mothers, really believe that, the choices that we make are not only those choices, but the choices that we make and the issues that we deal with every day around economics, housing, access to food, access to healthcare, all of these things impact our lives really does have an influence on the choices that we make. And so it really shifts from the individual's right to an abortion to what we all want and need to be able to thrive and survive. And so I'm pretty sure that a lot of folks may not know the names of the people that inspired us to change the reproductive movement, health rights and justice movement. And I do believe that it's important to acknowledge those folks that created or sparked this change. And so the founding mothers of reproductive justice are Dr. Toni Bond, Reverend Alma Crawford, Evelyn S. Field, Terry James, Basola Marjane, Cassandra McConnell, Cynthia Newbile, Loretta Ross, which I'm sure many of y'all know, Elizabeth Terry, Representative Abel Mabel Thomas from Atlanta, Georgia, Wynette P. Willis, and Kim Youngblood. So I just want y'all to soak that in, that these Black women are the people who really sparked this movement. So I mentioned earlier that I'm the executive director of the National Network of Abortion Funds. And for those who don't know what NNAF does, NNAF is a membership organization whose base is still predominantly white and whose primary focus is on abortion. And so, for folks, and I think that a lot of people just like sling the word reproductive justice around a lot as like this umbrella term for the work that we do in this movement. And, because our folks are not necessarily, centering people of color, centering a really diverse group of people doing this abortion funding work, I believe that NNAF and other organizations who are similar cannot claim to be reproductive justice organizations. Instead, we seek to be in alignment with the reproductive justice framework and values as a diverse, interconnected network unified to fund abortion and build power across the intersections of race, class, and gender. And you know what? I need to mention that the idea of protecting or codifying Roe will not change the reality that abortions are not accessible and have not been accessible for so many of us, and that there is indeed a future beyond Roe. This also may be slightly controversial, but here we are. The framing, I do think that the framing of Roe being the floor and not the ceiling is incredibly problematic. And as a Black feminist that believes reproductive justice is one of the ways that we get free, I 100% reject the idea that we would continue building a house where Roe is the floor on top of a foundation rooted in white supremacy and cis heteropatriarchy. This is not only insulting, but it's inefficient. That's not what's going to get us the wins that we want. And so if we're calling, the floor, foundation, I really do want us, feel free to close your eyes, keep your eyes open, whatever you need to do. But let's imagine a house as collective liberation. So what will it take for us to have a proactive stance while we are co-creating this house and this next iteration of this movement? I mean, I feel like the first thing we could do is tear down the whole damn house, honestly, because it's not working. It's not working for us. And, I want to ensure that the home, the political home that we choose to build is on land that is fortified by the reproductive justice framework. In this next phase of our movement, the blueprint of this new house will have a foundation that makes sure that all of our material conditions are being met as we build and move towards our collective liberation. The floor will now account for all of the issues we care about, including abortion access, and it will show how these issues intersect and influence the myriad of choices we make for ourselves, for our communities, for our chosen biological and found families in order to live and thrive. This house will be a safe and brave space for all of us to experience in our lifetimes and for future generations. And I want us to build this house in a world where your zip code, your age, your documentation status, your income, disability, race, indigeneity, gender, and sexuality do not create barriers to accessing abortions. I want this to be a world where folks can get all the fully funded abortions they want, plus more, without having to leave their communities. this world will have new systems and institutions that are created that require us to thrive and unapologetically live our best lives. So feel free to open your eyes if you close them. And yeah, when I have this vision, I'm like, well, we know what the work is, which is eliminating barriers to abortion access, doing the organizing work to get folks to know what the work is, but how we do the work truly is just as important. And, I feel like there are tons of things that we could and should do, but I'll spare y'all. And I'll share 3 things that I really do feel that we can prioritize as we lay the foundation for our new political home. One of the first things is that we must become experts on how to rest and pace and pause as a movement so we don't burn out and we can sustainably continue doing this work. I feel like if you get a chance to look at the RJ manifestation, look, I'm not the RJ manifesto for rest. Amplify has that information as well, but it really is a great guideline on how to rest and pace and pause as well for our sustainability. Let's, in this transformation, let's teach each other, let's learn from others, and let's set up the things that we need to survive and to thrive. Next, I believe that we need to be willing and able rather to use our radical imaginations to reveal new ways to win in spite of our current reality. We are not being defined by this moment. We all have a vision of what this world can be. And, it really is one of those things where when we think about our collective liberation, about what can happen with abortion access, it seems unthinkable at times. And so that is why using our radical imaginations will, I hope, be a catalyst to reveal those ways and the ways that we can move together. And finally, I believe we need to shift from a scarcity mindset to a spirit of abundance and radical love. So there are so many times that scarcity comes through where it's like, we don't have enough people, we don't have enough money to do the work, we don't have enough resources to move around. And you know what? There's actually an abundance of possibilities in how we show up when we're faced with so much fear and uncertainty, especially with Roe being overturned. As I've said before, we will absolutely not be defined and stuck in the fear and despair of this movement moment. And I cannot reiterate how many times it's important to understand that this is a moment in our movement. And while, doing this may seem unthinkable when we're always playing defense, I plan on embodying and operationalizing radical love with a spirit of abundance as we move forward. And I do think that is also a nod to what is required with our radical imaginations. And so, personally, especially as a pissed off peach, living here in Atlanta, Georgia, doing the work in collaboration with so many organizations that are represented here in the Amplify Collaborative, this is one of my political homes. This is one of the places that I learned how to do this work, how to be in cross movement, how, various things like queer liberation, voting rights, racial justice, abortion access, how all of these things are so important when we're trying to be proactive in the ways that we show up. And so personally, now that I've moved from the state regional level when I was doing work with ARC Southeast, what I plan on taking to the national level as well is not that much different. I know it's easy for folks to make transitions, or some people to make transitions into larger nationals, and that changes the way that they decide to lead and move. But the way I got to this place is by consistently being authentic, by trying to ask questions, show up, do what is required, to not only advocate for ourselves as organizations, but to advocate for the folks that we live with in our communities. And so that is not going to change. I am not forgetting where I came from. I'm not forgetting, what Georgia has done to really support my leadership development as well. And, as I continue to get familiar with my role at NNAF, which July 18th was my first day, y'all. So I'm still in that onboarding phase. But I will say that I am committed to the transformation of our movement. One of the things is I'm not trying to do the same thing in the same way and expect different results. Just like a lot of folks in our movement have been like, vote, get out and vote. And my question always is, vote to do what? If we're not making the connections between abortion access and economic justice or access to food and housing, whatever that may be, voting or being inspired to vote means that we cannot expect the single issue of abortion to be that thing that creates the radical shift that we know is required in this moment and beyond. And so that is definitely what I would try to say. The last 50 years have been based and focused on so many things that have happened in this movement and have not created space for folks that are Black, Indigenous, and people of color to really stand up and allow us to be leaders in this movement. I also will make myself available to all of you all here and anyone, honestly, who's doing this work as a co-conspirator and as a thought partner, and to really support the work required to mend and tend and strengthen relationships that we have as Georgians, as organizations in Georgia, and with our relationship with other national organizations, and honestly, the entire movement as well. Also, please know that I'm committed to doing what I need to do to continue showing up as fully as my authentic self in order to do this work. I will use what I've learned as a healing-centered coach about the importance of taking time to pause and get grounded and seek alignment before moving forward, which that also may seem like it's something hard, but honestly, taking that time to intentionally pause and ground ourselves before we act on something is so important and allows us to be more proactive and have that forward stance that we want as well. I will continue to be rigorous about structure, alignment, and transparency because, we need to keep it real with each other. There can't be a movement where it's like some people know things and other people know things, but then not everyone knows the same thing. And it just gets really complicated. So my commitment, especially being on the national level and continuing, to be here as a co-conspirator in Georgia, is to really be transparent about what is going on. And, this is something that I want for everyone when doing this work, because I know the organizing work can just pull you in so many directions. But I really want not only to remind myself, but remind y'all that you are human beings and you're not human doings. And that you should be able to enjoy allowing yourself to just be. And really indulge in the pleasure that comes with intentionally pausing and not letting the pace of the movement take us out. There's so much frantic and frenetic energy. And, by coming and doing this work from a grounded place, I do feel like it's a different position, but it's also the one that we need to really be strategic. And, I want y'all to really take time, especially as you're learning and wanting to get more deep into the work, that, you know, protecting your peace and the rejuvenation that comes with radical leisure is a reflection that you have for yourself and also for our movement. And so while it's, again, so easy to think about like, oh, these are all the things that we have to do, these are all the things that we're wrong, you know that the work that we're doing is indeed coming from a place of love. It's coming from a place of excitement, and it's coming from a place where we do believe that we will get free in our lifetimes as well. And so as I bring this to a close, a lot of y'all probably already know this, but I do want to share Song's mandate for Black people with you all as well. The mandate actually resonated with me so deeply, and it really has influenced the way that I choose to do this work. And so the mandate for Black people in this time is to avenge the suffering of our ancestors, to earn the respect of future generations, and to be transformed in the service of the work. I know that so many of us have been transformed in the service of the work, and even being here can also be something that also transforms you while you're thinking about how to do this work and how to serve this movement and how to work with your communities. I want us to also remember that we actually are experts, and we're experts in our lived experiences. Don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. I also want us to realize that we are always in choice. And, there's a thing about being pro-choice and a thing about being in choice. And so being in choice to me is we get to choose how we show up in this movement moment. We can decide how we receive information and news and feedback. And we get to choose how we respond, even when we're feeling overwhelmed and in moments of fear and uncertainty and, a self-fulfilling scarcity mindset, because scarcity is not going to get us where we need to go. I want to also remind us that we are in control of our own destinies. And we're literally fighting for our lives by building power as organizers and advocates within this community. So I really want us to come together as agents of change and transformation in this movement. And that is what I see will come out, and I hope will come out of this meeting together, is y'all will have the tools and the resources to really feel empowered to be agents of change and transformation. The North Star, the North Star that's been guiding me, instead of being stuck in like all of the negative things that's going on right now, the North Star is focused on the collective liberation of all people who are in this training and out of this training as well. And I firmly believe that when we're talking about collective liberation, that it's a manifestation of our love. And it's love. It's the love that we have, again, for each other, for our communities. Wanting everyone to be free shows that we love our communities and ourselves so much that it is worth the investment. It's worth the time to get there. And, I really am excited for what comes from your time together. I really, really am. I love Amplify. I love being in generative spaces. And so I really am excited to see how this really shifts the way we do work in Georgia. And, Miriam Kaba says, hope is a discipline. And I want you all to leave this summit feeling empowered and hopeful that our collective brilliance will lead to real, tangible change. This moment, again, it's not permanent. This is the long game. And I do believe that we're about to do the damn thing, y'all. So as you're here, as you learn, as you soak up all the goodness from amazing leaders here, let's get into it. Let's do the work and let's go, y'all. we can actually make change in the state of Georgia that shows folks in other regions that change is possible, especially change that is coming from the South. So thank y'all for having me. And sending y'all so much love and, love and the ability to stay grounded during everything that's coming at you today. Because I know it may be a lot, but this is what we need, this is what we need. So let's go. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Go team, go. And that's all I've got.
I'm sorry, y'all. I just shared all of that stuff. It was brilliant. I hope you knew that. I was basically saying thank you so much, Oriaku, for sharing those beautiful words of wisdom. I remember like 7 or 8 years ago when we first met at the National Network of Abortion Funds annual conference, and just to see where you have taken this work since then is so inspiring. And something I admire the most about your leadership is how vision forward it is, because it is vision that's going to keep us in the work, right? And our commitment to like this world of radical love and joy that we're working to build here in the South. So with that, I want to hand it over to Rula to close us out and transition us into the next session. Nope. Okay. Well, then we're just going to transition into the next session, which is Abortion 101. So just a quick note, what's going to happen is we're going to close this session, and then you're going to go back to that list, the agenda at the top of the Crowdcast page, and select Abortion 101. There may be a brief pause while you're sitting in the session. You think nothing's happening, but that just means we're getting settled. We'll go live and you'll be automatically brought into the session. So we'll be launching that in the next few minutes. So we'll see you there. Bye, y'all.